Very good. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Happy January. Happy holidays. Appreciate everyone being here. Diana, can we have a call to order, please?
Commissioner Ashworth?
Here.
Commissioner Banks?
Here.
Commissioner Hassler?
Here.
Commissioner Schwerin? Here.
Wonderful. Thank you. We appreciate everybody working with us on our socially distancing to prevent any further infections of this flu. So thank you all for a little bit of retroactivity to where we were several months ago, but let's hope this doesn't last long. And happy holidays, everyone. Hopefully you had a wonderful holiday season, and we'll continue to Martin Luther King and subsequent holidays. But happy New Year, everyone. Let's hope 2022 is healthy, happy, and successful for all of us. We appreciate that. One last thing before we jump in on the Chief's report. January 9th, for those of you who don't know, was Police Appreciation or Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. And we want to tell each and every one of you just how appreciative we are of everything you do day in, day out to care for all of us, whether it's protection or whether it's help or whether it's our own health or whatever it might be. So there is no greater appreciation that we can share than ours for you. So thank you for that. It shouldn't be just one day, it should be every day, but we'll take one day at a time. So thank you for that. Chief, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good morning. Initially, Commissioner, we wanted to have Rabbi Shook introduce our new 3 new chaplains. And Rabbi Shook, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Police Commissioners, it is my honor and duty to introduce to you 3 new chaplains who will be serving our department beginning today. First, I'd like to present Jeanette Whitehead, who will be going to the North County Precinct. Jeanette, please step forward. This is what Jeanette's pastor wrote about her in his letter of recommendation. She's part of the clergy team of the New Life in Christ Interdenominational Church. He says the following: I witnessed firsthand Jeanette's involvement as a passionate part of her community, her tenacious servant-leading nature, diligence to detail, and compassion for helping others is evident. We are delighted to have Jeanette join us and serving in the North County Precinct.
Thank you very, very much. So great.
Our next chaplain serving us is Father Zachary Povis. Zachary, would you please join us? Father Povis is associate pastor at the Cathedral Basilica of St. Louis, but he is joining us in a new capacity. We are adding a Metrolink unit to the chaplaincy program, and he will be devoted to serving the officers and personnel of the Metrolink unit. And we are delighted to have him. He sort of crosses the line between Metro St. Louis chaplaincy and the St. Louis County chaplaincy. We think he's eminently qualified and appropriately geographically located to be of service in the Metrolink area. We're just delighted to have Father Povis join us. Thank you.
Father, thank you very, very much. Thanks for having me. And more responsibilities. Thank you. Thank you.
And the last of our 3, but not the least, is certainly Pastor Christopher Keating. Pastor Keating joins us, and he will be serving in the 7th precinct, the West County precinct of St. Louis County. And Pastor Keating comes to us with a doctoral degree in the ministry from St. Paul University in Kansas City. He has studied his master's degree in theology at Princeton Theological Seminary, and he is serving a congregation in the Wildwood area, but he lives in Baldwin, so he is eminently qualified and geographically located to serve in the West County precinct, and we're delighted to have Pastor Keating join our group.
Thank you also, and as a Wildwood resident, and Baldwin formerly, I thank you for your service.
All right, well, okay.
That's it. Thank you all so very, very much. Thank you. Your work is so important. Rabbi Shook, thank you also for your leadership.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Okay, next up on the agenda, Commissioner, is the budget report. And I don't have a lot for the budget other than the fact that the 2021 budget is still open. It stays open until February the 20th. It's still open for the reason that we're still paying outstanding invoices from 2021. The 2022 budget is open, and we are starting to pay 2022 budget is open, and we're starting to pay 2022 expenses from that budget. The current budget has been approved. The council is waiting for us to finish the negotiations with professional staff, the lab, to get them some numbers as far as salaries. Again, we're still in negotiation. They haven't gotten that yet, so I was given to Councilwoman Ritter days is one of those numbers close to the end of the month. So once we get closer to the figures that we're looking for, she'll get that information. So that's where we are with the budget.
Wonderful. Can we have, Joyce, could you come back next month and give us an update on kind of where we settled on both, how we closed out 2021 and whatever, we have agreement on the collective bargaining agreement, where we are in 2022?
Right.
Yes.
So right now we don't have, I'm sorry, Joyce, are you there?
I am.
No.
But I'm sorry, yes, we will, as soon as after we close it, as long as the meeting's after the 20th of February, I can provide that. Otherwise, it'll be March
20th of February, 20th of January?
of February.
February, sorry, said that wrong. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Lieutenant Shellman will be up next. He's going to discuss the crime stat update, and he's going to go right into the Teneo update. Lieutenant, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Members of the board, good morning. As soon as I get this little share, there we go, share my screen with you. Can you see the monthly report here?
Not yet.
Try it again. How about now?
Yes, sir.
All right. So going through the monthly crime stats, obviously this would be for the end of 2021. So as we can look at the first slide here, if I can move this up. Our citizen complaint incidents down 50%, 15 total from 30 in 2020. Internal investigations up slightly, 6%, but pretty much fall in line if you look at that 3 years straight across. The use of force incidents that we went into a lot more detail last month, again, pretty much stayed the same from the end of November through end of December. From our last meeting, I can tell you that in those use of force incidents, there was 43 in 2020, in December of 2020, and 40 in December of 2021. So again, pretty much the same across the board there. Same thing with vehicle accidents, pursuits down just slight bit, but gun seized because of that officer initiated activity is up as well. To go into the NIBRS data, I'll only keep this slide up for just a quick second. Obviously, the red shows crimes against persons, as it says at the bottom. The blue is the property, and crimes against society would be in yellow. Break that down a little bit more. So end of year, when you look at these, I'll get into the homicide numbers here a little bit more in detail when I pull up a PowerPoint or another slide. But the 39 is actually unincorporated St. Louis County. The aggravated assaults down about 3%. So again, pretty much the same as what we saw in 2020. Same thing with simple assaults up just a slight bit. Crimes against property, you can see that there's a pretty big drop in burglaries, but those destruction of properties and the thefts from motor vehicles were up. Obviously, the car cloudings is the main issue with destruction of properties and larcenies. And then the crimes against society, drug violations up because of the self-initiated activity, the weapons law violations as well. Before we go into further homicide numbers, did you have any questions on anything that I just showed in those slides?
Brian, there's going to be some breaks in here as we talk to you because we can't see each other, right? So we'll step on each other a little bit as we ask questions. Are these final year-end numbers, knowing that we're just 10 days, 11 days, and 12 days into 2022? In other words, will we see truly final numbers in the next month or two, or are these final numbers?
No, so these are what are going to be pretty accurate. They are not final, and the reason is we still don't know what unapproved reports are out there. So once everything's approved, I would say almost with confidence that next month I will be able to have the actual hardcore numbers, but these will be pretty close.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hey, Brian, Richard Banks, I had a question on in December, is it typical that you have the increase, as you said, in December of the use of force incidents? And why is it? Is it consistent with the holidays, or why is that?
No, sir. We actually had a decrease from 2020. So there was 43 incidents, use of force incidents in 2020 from the department. And in 2021, December, there was 40. So there was actually no increase. It was a slight decrease, but I'm saying it's the same across the board as what we've seen month to month. No real change.
So it's not, there's not an increase in December. 40 seems to be more than the other months. That's what I'm saying.
It's, I'll be honest, I'd have to delve into and get with our BPS folks to get the actual month breakdown. I can get that for you.
No, I was just wondering that. My question is if it was a pattern, because if there was 40 every month, it'd be a lot more than the number posted. So obviously December seemed to be a lot, and it's consistent with other Decembers. That's all.
That's right. 2019, for instance, there was exactly 40 as well. So 40, 43, 40. But yeah, I can definitely get you an answer on that. I just don't have that number in front of me, sir.
Thank you.
Ryan, to Richard's question, can you go back to the slide that had the use of force, just so we can put Richard's question in? Thank you.
Yeah, so as we can see, does anybody else have any other questions regarding that?
No, but to Richard's point, right? Roughly we'll average, if you take the number, we're going to average about 25 a month to his
That's
point,
correct.
right? 40 in this number, so.
Yes, sir. No, I understand that. And I will definitely have an answer for you all. I'll just get that month by month breakdown and see why December would be slightly higher, and see what kind of the summer months look like as well, comparatively. There are no further questions about that. I'm going to pull up this sheet here. And I don't know if each of you have you seen this sheet, members of the board?
We'll have to wait till it comes up, Ryan.
All right. I'll try to.
Does he need to close that PowerPoint slide in order to pull something else up?
Yeah, I tried to close that. Here we go. Thank you. All right, how about now?
We have seen this in the past.
Can you see this now?
We can see the top half of the slide.
Okay, I'm going to page down. So this is just the homicides by the numbers. So our crimes against persons investigated a total of 66 homicides in 2021. As I scroll down here, it's got a little bit of a numbers breakdown. You can see here that the comparison from 2020, we investigated 71 homicides in 2020, so down 5 here in 2021. The main number to me here is the overall clearance rate from our crimes against persons detectives, who do a fantastic job, and a 96% clearance rate in the county and contract control areas. Some of the motives are displayed here to the right in this chart. As you can see, broken down: domestic, drug-related, personal feuds, robberies, things of that nature, and what weapon was used here. And again, if you have not seen this, I will be more than happy to send you each a copy.
I think we would all appreciate that. Can you go down to the circular? Yep, thank you. With the reason. So when you look at the red and the green, whatever color you call it, avocado, that's more than half are either unknown or other.
That's correct.
That's a lot to put in half, right? So
Sir, other, the 18 here, the 25% in other. So that includes felony murder, justifiable, or child abuse. The unknown is obviously the majority of those, as speaking with the crimes against persons guys, especially the commander in there. The unknown category is they've made arrests on the majority of those, as you can see from the 96%, but the motive just remains unknown, either unwillingness to cooperate by a suspect or whatever.
Does that eventually get cleaned up as we have either pleas or we have decisions made on, does that eventually get cleaned up?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Brian, could we get that, just that graphic email to us when you have a chance later?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So that's all I have for, the crime stats. Chief Gregory, would you like me to move into Teneo?
Wait,
Please,
who-
appreciate it.
Ryan, before you do, just one last comment. Your clearance rate, you highlighted it. We kind of skipped past it. That 96% is tipped to the commander and all the detectives in that area that do the investigation. So no doubt that's a very nice number.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Schwerin, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, ma'am.
That's okay. I just had a quick question. There was a St. Louis Post article earlier this week that reported that we investigated 28% more homicides last year than 2020, which seems to contradict this data. And I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm not sure if you read the article, but I was wondering if you knew the reason for the discrepancy.
So I believe what the Post-Dispatch is reporting is homicides in St. Louis County overall. Those may not have been all investigated by our department. For instance, major case. There could be, who obviously does several of them. So if the North County Co-op, for instance, had a homicide and they called for major case, or they handled it themselves, same with any other jurisdiction. The numbers that I've shown you, the 71 to 66, is completely accurate for what our St. Louis County Police Crimes Against Persons detectives have investigated.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yes, ma'am.
Your questions prompted another one, which is, Brian, is there any way to understand or get a sum total of all of the major issues that have happened across St. Louis County, not just what we provide services to, but all the municipalities, all the other groups? I think Michelle's question gets at a much broader issue, which is, what we're doing might be great, but other parts of the county may or may not be doing as well. How do we get a full view of what's going on across the county?
Sir, I hate to say this. You cut off for a second there, and for some reason my screen is acting up. I didn't hear more than half of that. And I'm trying to get my full screen back here.
Not sure that I'm articulating in the right direction. So I'll do my best, which is Commissioner Schwerin's question gets to a broader question around the entire county, not just the part of the county that we support through our 8 precincts. Is there a way to get a picture of what's going on across the entire county on major issues, the murders, the homicides, the use of force, the whatever they might be, the more significant ones?
Yes, I think that there is. But so again, those are, I don't want to speak out of turn. I'd have to defer to our folks in our crimes against persons folks. But I can, again, these are things that we can definitely discuss for the next meeting, and I can have some of those answers for you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So Commissioner Ashworth, if I could chime in, I can probably help with that a little bit too. So that's kind of what our Violent Crimes Task Force concentrates on, along with our intel groups. And that's why we have all the municipalities as a part of that, so that we can address those issues collectively. And to the point of Commissioner Schwerin, that's why that group exists.
Deputy Chief, if we could get some of those numbers, we know they're out there. So thank you. If we could get some of those numbers, that would be great.
Yes, sir.
Attorney, want to go on to with Teneo?
Yes, sir. That's making sure that that's the direction you wanted to go. Thank you. All right, commissioners, for the Teneo report from our last meeting, the department has completed two more of the recommendations as made by Teneo. We have not declined anything since the last meeting, and that means that there are a total of 41 recommendations in progress from 43, because 2 of those were completed. And again, the decline number stayed at 19. Last meeting, we had talked about some of the reasons. We had declined 6, and I know Commissioner Ashworth, you had asked questions about those. Would you like me to go into detail about those 6 reasons that we declined on those recommendations?
Yes, please. Briefly, but yes, please.
So one of the recommendations from Teneo was regarding making traffic stop information or data collected by the department not limited to just traffic stops. Basically, they want us to track pedestrian stops. In 2021, the reason in the middle of the year that recommendation was declined is there's a cost associated with Regis, who would house that data. They don't have any way, Regis, right now to house that data. So there's an annual fee that the department at that time, and then Chief Barton, was not willing to pay. Chief Gregory, with him, cost is not a factor on that, but instead there is an issue with making a voluntary contact, which a pedestrian stop most of the time, almost all the time, is turning it into a non-voluntary detention for the sole purpose of collecting that information and gathering those statistics. So virtually by attempting to compel a person who has not committed a crime on a voluntary contact like a pedestrian stop to give us information, there's a higher propensity for that negative police community interaction, number one. And number two, there's also a possible increase in uses of force when you're trying to compel somebody to just give you information, again, that may have not committed a crime, that you're just stopping on the street. Does that make sense? So that was that was the first one. We had 6 that were declined that we had spoke about last meeting. There's Teneo recommends that we include in the our CIT general order the term developmental disabilities. Even though we declined that in 2021, we are going to go ahead and do that. We've never had an issue. The department has never had an issue with putting the words developmental disabilities. We feel like we are already addressing that in every CIT training. There's obviously a lot of disabilities and concerns, all types of specific disabilities that aren't listed in our general order. Training our police officers undertake is constantly evaluated and updated with input from mental health professionals. And further, CIT has always helped anyone in crisis based on behavior and needs, regardless of any particular diagnosis that those folks may have. So throwing the term developmental disabilities, we just had our policy review here in my office, actually yesterday for 2022. We're going to look at that general order and add that term. So in a sense, we're no longer declining. We've always been willing to add that. But as you all know, policy review takes a little bit of time. We aren't just going to open the policy up to just add those terms. We're going to do a full review of the entire policy before we add those terms. The same thing with another one of their recommendations was to add the 2 words citizen journalist to our public information and news media policy. Never had an issue with doing that. Our public information office has always been accommodating to journalists. So regardless of workplace affiliation, everyone who inquires to our department as a journalist is considered a journalist. And we do not require credentials to be added to our journalist distribution list. So again, this policy, as we discussed, my team yesterday, will be up for review here in 2022, and that term will be added to the general order when the policy is revised. But the same as the CIT general order, we don't just want to open a general order to add those 2 words. We want to take a look at the entire body and see what else we may be able to do better. So that covers 3 of the 6. Recommendation number 29 from Teneo has to do with police officer testing, the testing of police officers for narcotics and being subjected to testing. It's clarifying the terms urinalysis versus blood test. This particular policy cannot be updated until the police officer's collective bargaining agreement expires. Under Article 18 of the CBA, it reads that a bargaining unit member may be required to submit to alcohol and/or drug testing as directed in conformance with General Order 1355, drug and alcohol testing, which was adopted on January 24th, 2013. That's exactly how it reads out of the CBA. The CBA reading 1355 precludes us. If it would have just said General Order 55, the department would be able to update that. Since it reads 13055, we would be violating the CBA. We have to wait until the next CBA is agreed upon. So that's for that one. The last 2 recommendations that were declined. One was to update our body-worn camera policy to mandate the turn-on of body-worn cameras at all times by police officers at every rank. As you know, and I know that Chief Gregory still stands behind this, the ranks of sergeants through chief of police are not required to wear body cameras. So that's the main reason for this. Outside of that, I just wanted to point out that they put in their recommendation that every police officer at every rank should turn on their body-worn camera, quote, during every enforcement action. I believe that our Special Order 394 on recording devices that dictates exactly how a policeman uses his body-worn camera. It reads, and I quickly quote, I won't read all 6 pages to you, obviously, but in general, a circumstance must fall into at least one of the 3 following categories in order to mandate recording. A is enforcement action. So I believe that everything outside of them saying that every rank should wear a body camera, our department is already in compliance with from the Teneo recommendation. And then finally, the last recommendation on here that we declined, again, I'll explain this to say that we actually aren't declining it. I'm rolling it. I made the decision to roll this into another. There's 2 separate recommendations, numbers 77 and 87, that ask us to revise General Order 53, which is on search and seizure. That current policy is being revised right now. So I, in a sense, declined 87 because I rolled it into number 77. We are more than willing and have already started the process of changing the search and seizure general order. I hope all of that makes sense and that I didn't ramble too much.
Questions for Lieutenant Shellman? Appreciate the update.
Okay, thanks, Lieutenant. Appreciate it. Just to follow up on a couple of things that the Lieutenant mentioned. He mentioned the 96% clearance rate that our detectives have as far as homicides are concerned. The national average for clearance is like about 55%. So we're doing a great job in the fact that we are clearing up our homicides. We were at a visual last week, and some of the people there that were victims, someone being killed, were satisfied with the numbers that we gave them. So they're doing a great job upstairs in reference to that. He talked about the pedestrian stops, and I have a big concern about pedestrian stops turning into use of forces for the reason that the Lieutenant mentioned. And as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Lieutenant, whoever may know, I don't think there is a state mandate for us to turn in pedestrian stop numbers as there is to turn in traffic stop numbers. I don't think there is a state mandate to turn in pedestrian stop numbers as it is for traffic stops. So obviously the cost is there. Obviously I'm concerned about this turning into use of forces. Force is a concern of mine. So that's where we are with that. We're still looking into doing something with that. Just to follow up on Teneo, I spoke yesterday about some initiatives that I wanted to attempt to incorporate within the department in this upcoming year. And those of you who are on the link this morning that attended the retreat with us back in August that was sponsored by Teneo, we talked about some of these things, and Lieutenant Colonel Juan Cox is going to head up what we call the GAP program. And that's just a program in this, composed of some of our millennials talking about some of their concerns about this department. We talked about, getting information from top down, which is what we normally do. We wanted to try to do something to get information from bottom up. So Lieutenant Colonel Cox is going to head that up. I spoke about professional staff career development. This is just some recognition for our professional staff, who obviously this department wouldn't operate without what they do. And we wanted to give them some professional staff initiatives, career development, and Michelle Ryan, I've asked her to head this up. And the last one that I mentioned is Courageous Conversations. At the end of 2020 last year, we started the Courageous Conversations, and I think Dr. Art McCoy was the facilitator for that. And because of funds, it broke off. He didn't get anywhere near doing the entire department. Lieutenant James Morgan at the retreat brought this up again, and we're going to try to attempt what we call roll call Courageous Conversations. And he and I are working on trying to put that together, along with some information I got from Deputy Chief Cox as to how we can incorporate this into roll call Courageous Conversations. So those are things that I mentioned to the board yesterday, and again, we're going to try to get those 3 initiatives started. Mr. Baker, I think you're up for Human Resources, sir.
Thank you, Chief. So for the monthly staffing report, as you know, we have 972 authorized commission. We have 916 actual. That's a current vacancy rate of 50, or a current vacancy number rather of 56. The CMPA Class 203 graduated December 16th. They're in field training now. Class 204 started January 3rd with 23 recruits. They now have 21 recruits, and 3 of the total of 38, including the municipal and open enrollment recruits, 3 of them are out with COVID. None of our staff are out with COVID. And the academy, along with the Academy Board of Managers, is addressing some issues in conjunction with POST, in conjunction with our standards for graduation, in order to adjust during this time period to be able to get recruits through. As you know, a recruit cannot miss more than 30 hours of academy training, and we're trying to adapt to that with respect to virtual learning and some recorded learning also. There's some things like defensive tactics and firearms that obviously need to be in person, and we're trying to adjust to that to get as many recruits through as possible. And with respect to COVID and county employees, county police employees, there's 29 out right now. That number peaked in November of 20 at 46. A few weeks ago, we peaked at 45, so didn't quite break the record, if you will. And with the shorter quarantine period, and fortunately the symptoms are lesser, it seems these days, we're just recycling people through the COVID process a lot faster. With regard to the professional staff, there's 370 authorized, there's 341 actual, so that's a vacancy of 29 employees. And that's broken down by 2 cadets, 4 record clerks, 1 report clerk, 9 dispatchers, and 5 security officers. The Academy, PSD Academy Class 12 will start January 31st. And we have another Academy, PSD Academy Class 13, starting April 11th. So the background investigators and recruiters are active in that regard in filling those classes, as well as the upcoming Police Academy classes. We have 12 out on military separation. And just to reiterate, as I do every month, that the police department supports our military reservists. The applications for last month, December of 21, we had 17 police officer applications. There are currently 8 in in background process. 1 was NBQ'd and 5 voluntarily withdrew. For the year 21, and these are the final numbers, the total hires for the year were 129. That's broken down as 48 commissioned, and 23% of those were minority. And the non-commissioned, there were 81 hires, and 32% of those hires were minorities. And that's my staffing report, Chief.
Carl, we asked a few questions. We've lost 3 out of this class already. Are there any concerns with the process or anything? Does 3 create any concerns for you and the academy leadership?
The short answer is no. The more specific answer, it's personnel issues, which I'd be glad to talk about in closed session. But overall, I think your question is there a broad concern? And the answer is no.
Thank you. Second question I have is the PSD forecast of class size. You have a feel for what that's going to look like? You said it's when it starts, and you said, excuse me, you have a feel for the forecast for that class size.
Yes, sir. Well, their capacity is 12. We're working with them to inch that up as much as possible. And as far as the number that'll actually get through and approved, that remains to be seen. But obviously the goal is at least 12. If they can squeeze in 14 or 15, they'll do it.
And are we realistically going to be able to get to 12?
We might. We're shooting for it.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate it. I was just advised by Deputy Chief Ludwig to stop playing with my collar and to pick up a pen and stop looking so serious. So, thanks, Chief. I appreciate it. Anyway, obviously, as Mr. Becker stated, we're, along with everybody else, we're dealing with the COVID uptick as with our department. And last year, 2020, when this first hit us with the COVID, we made a lot of put a lot of limitations on our department as to how we're going to deal with responding to calls, things like that, precautions for our people here to take. And we're at the point now, not at that point as we were in 2020, but we're starting to get to that point. So with that in mind, Lieutenant Colonel Cox is going to discuss with you just what we have been doing as far as preparing our officers, getting them advised as to how to deal with the COVID uptick. Lieutenant Colonel Cox, you're on, sir.
Thanks, Chief. Right, in order to mitigate our exposure due to the rise in the COVID-19 virus, we are modifying some of our procedures, things such as taking more reports over the phone with our officers in regards to the Part 2 and Part 3 calls for service. We will respond to all crimes in progress calls and priority calls. So the calls of the more serious nature, we will respond to those. We'll also respond to some of those Part 2 and Part 3 calls for service if the citizen requested and the supervisor deemed that an officer should respond to those. Our roll calls, our in-person roll calls will be held on an as-needed basis. So if a watch commander deems we need to have in-person roll call to go over some things, we will. And if we do that, they'll be brief and specific so we can get our guys out of those confined spaces as quickly as possible. The patrol vehicles will be cleaned and disinfected after each.
Hey, Colonel Cox.
Yes, sir.
I can hardly hear you. Is anybody else having that problem?
See some head shaking, Chief, so that would be a yes.
Nobody else is having that problem?
A few of us, it looks like a few people are.
Yes, sir. Juan, try talking closer to your microphone.
Okay. Is this any better? Can you guys hear me any better?
Try again.
Test. Can you guys hear me any better?
Yes, that's better.
Chief, can you hear him better?
Not really. Go ahead, Juan. Go ahead. We're okay.
All right, as I was saying, in order to mitigate some of our exposure here, we're gonna start taking part 2 and part 3 calls for service over the phone, where our officers are able to do a police report over the phone. We will respond to the more serious calls in progress, priority 1 calls. We'll also respond to some of those part 2 and part 3 calls also. It'll just be based off of the supervisor's discretion. We're gonna limit our in-person roll calls. It will be the watch commander's discretion on whether or not we need to meet in person. And if we do, the roll calls will be real specific, real brief, so we can leave those confined spaces. All patrol vehicles will be cleaned and disinfected at the end of each shift. No civilian ride-alongs at this time. We've also suspended our detachments from one division to the next due to limit the exposure also. We also reminded the officers that on January 4th, the St. Louis County Council enacted the mask order, where the wearing of a mask are mandated in all public spaces. So when these officers are out in the public, they need to be wearing a mask. And also our community engagement initiatives. We emphasize to our commanders that if a community engagement initiative can be conducted virtually, we highly recommend that. However, we did not want to take that away completely. So we will continue to have our community outreach, but if we can do some things virtually, we will. Right now, we're kind of operating on a hybrid schedule where we still want to do some things. We just really want to limit those opportunities where we're in confined spaces for long periods of time. So our detectives bureau, they're working, some are working from home, some are working here out of Clayton, but we're trying to make sure that we got some distance in between ourselves here at headquarters also. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Lieutenant Colonel, I just have one, and by asking it, I don't mean to put any pressure on how quickly can we take these things out of utilization, but is there a criteria as to when we would start to move back to allowing for some movement across the precincts, and or what will cause us to stand down on some or all of these?
Okay, I can barely hear you, Commissioner Ashworth, but I think you were asking if we are able to spin up and go to what we call like a level red, where we would need to suspend a lot more things, and we will go into a more severe status. We're also able just as quickly to go back to what we call a green level, where everything will be back to normal. That's just as simple as the chief and the executive command staff having a meeting, and the chief letting us know that we're back to normal status, or we need to wrap this down actually even more and have more restrict protocols. The EOC Emergency Operations Center, they put out the basic operations during a public health crisis that they are constantly updating. So we're able to spin up or go back down as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Commissioner, obviously, we've had some experience with this last year and making arrangements to deal with this uptick if it gets really bad. I know Lieutenant Colonel Doyle and EOC, they're doing some things already in preparation, possible preparation for this. They're going to put out some notices either today or tomorrow for department-wide, just to give everybody an idea as to kind of what we want them to do at the stage that it is now. Right now, it's bad, but I mean, it's not as it was early in 2020 when we were dealing with it. But again, we've had some experience as to how to get into dealing with what we need to deal with if this uptick continues. Thank you, Colonel. Appreciate it. The last thing that I have is just a comment on General Order 21-036, which is uniform and appearance. At our last board meeting, there was some discussion that the commissioners had. It was taken care of. And as it stands now, that general order will read as it is stated. And that's all I have on that.
Yep.
And that's all I have for the chief's report, Commissioner.
All right. Anything from the rest of the command staff? Anything else?
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure where to communicate either, so I feel like I'm yelling at everyone in order to be heard, so my apologies. Just asked if there was anything else from you or your command staff that we need to discuss.
No, I don't have anything. Gentlemen, you have anything?
Sir, thank you.
Chief,
Question?
before we move on to past your report, I think we had discussed speaking with someone from the procurement department regarding hearing officers.
Yes, we had discussed that with Jennifer Bauman. Mr. Tabor is going to discuss that in the closed session.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, command staff. We appreciate it greatly. Thank you. All right, I know we have a visitor, so Mayor Boland, we're going to get to you pretty quickly here, so please be patient with us. Moving on to next agenda item, our approval of our minutes from our December 15th and December 21 meetings. Those were obviously shared with us and put in our packets, and we've had a chance to look through it. Can we have a motion to approve and a second?
I move that we approve these minutes.
A second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the minutes? Any clarification, any editing? All in favor of amending them in?
Aye.
Aye.
So approved. Thank you. Diane, any letters or communications?
No letters or communications.
Thank you. Any old business? Doesn't sound like it. All right, so from a new business, we have some contracts. We have 8 total on which to vote. 5 are related to the police academy and our training. We have 2 around grants, and we want to have 1 police service agreement. We're going to break our conversation, our votes down in that category, and the academy, the grants, and the police service agreement. Mayor Boland from Wildwood, thank you very much for joining us. Let's talk about our relationship as we move forward. So we have a police service agreement with the city of Wildwood. We have a contract for full service police service between the city of Wildwood and the St. Louis County. It's a 10-year agreement. So thank you, Mayor, for you and all of your county council. It will run from January 1, 2022 to December 31 of 2031 at a tune of about $5 million a year. Chief, I don't know whether you wanted to say anything in there, Deputy Chief or Lieutenant Colonel Cox, but we truly appreciate the partnership. There is no doubt about it. All right. With that, and we have a motion to approve our support. By the way, Mayor Boland, did you like to
Mr. Commissioner,
Yeah, please.
may I say just a couple of words, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to thank each of you for your service to the county, and I want to thank each of our officers that work with the city as part of this contract. We appreciate all they do under the leadership of Captain Jim Lindell. One of the other things, just a technicality, I guess I wanted to mention relative to the contract for this year. We did take the opportunity this year to work with the department team to upgrade, what I would call upgrade the agreement in terms of making it more comprehensive and basically working and helping both sides to have simply a better, well-drafted agreement compared to what we've had previously. There were no substantive changes, but it does, I think you'll agree if you look at it and compare it, not only line by line, but page by page, compared to past years, that it's a better document. And I appreciate your team working with us on that. And so again, I want to thank each one of you for everything you do for the county, and we appreciate this partnership, and I'm happy to entertain any questions. And that's it. Thank you.
Any questions for the mayor before we vote?
Mr. Mayor, our Chief Gregory, how you doing, sir?
I'm great, thank you.
Good seeing you again. Again, as the chairman, our Commissioner Ashford stated, we appreciate the service that we've had with you over the years, and again, we look forward to this continued service with working with Wildwood. So again, thank you for having confidence in us to do the police work out there for you.
Very welcome, and thank you.
So let's finalize this, if we may. We have a motion to approve the police service agreement with the city of Wildwood.
I move that we approve the agreement with the city of Wildwood.
Second.
I second that motion.
Further discussion on the contract with Wildwood? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Mayor, thank you very much. And as we kick off another 10 years, Chief mentioned that he and I think a few of our other command staff were out for an event that you did at your council meeting on Monday. And we just wanted to say thank you very much for recognizing all the officers who lost their lives last year, including our own Antonio Valentine. So thank you very much for recognizing our loss.
You're welcome, and they are in our thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations. All right. Mayor Bowen, thank you. All right. Next up, we will vote on are the 5 academy contracts. The first is a professional service agreement with the range. It is to provide firearms training and qualification testing to persons seeking to be licensed by St. Louis County as private security personnel. The fees for the program will be paid by program participants. The second is a professional service agreement with Vista Law Enforcement Training and Consulting. It is for the County and Municipal Police Academy, CMPA. It is for preparation for retirement for St. Louis County law enforcement personnel on the March 4th, 2022 training at a cost of about $1,600. We have a professional service agreement with Vista Law Enforcement Training Consulting LLC, also for the CMPA, for basic report writing techniques for law enforcement officers on April 25th and 26th at a cost not to exceed $1,600. A professional service agreement with Vista Law Enforcement Training and Consulting, again for the CMPA, for basic death investigations for uniformed officers and investigators on February 23rd and 24th at a cost not to exceed $1,600, and a professional service agreement with Patrick E. Horney for the CMPA on instructor development, also for January 24th through the 28th at a cost not to exceed $1,600. We have a motion to vote on those 5 contracts.
I move that we approve these contracts for signature.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving these contracts?
Aye.
Thank you. And then the last are the 2 grants. The first grant is a professional service agreement with International Crisis Aid for the 2020 Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Crimes Against Children / Sex Crimes Grant. The contract is worth $53,750. It covers the salary and benefits for 1 new International Crisis Aid advocate. The grant runs from October of 21 through September of 22. The second of the 2 grants is a professional service agreement with the Maryland Heights Police Department. It is part of the 2022 State Cyber Crime Grant. The grant funds a cyber crime task force, which employs 1 detective from the Maryland Heights Police Department. The contract is for $86,661, which will cover the partial salary and benefits for the detective during the grant period. The grant runs from June of 21 through May of 22, and then 2022. We have a motion to approve those 2 grants, please.
I move that the grants be approved by the board. The grant for International Crisis Aid and the grant for the Maryland Heights Police Department.
Second.
Thank you, Richard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we have approved those. Thank you all very, very much. Appreciate continued support of the Academy, a couple of grants to provide some additional resources, and as we said, the partnership with the city of Wildwood. Lieutenant Shellman, I think we're back to you on some general orders.
Yes, sir. So we have 3 general orders to present today. Hopefully you've each had a chance to look them over. The first one is General Order 42, Missing Persons and Runaways. A few minor changes to this one, but the main reason for changing this general order is we removed the SARA alert system, which is no longer supported. Basically, strictly moved to Amber. Does anybody have any questions regarding that policy?
Lieutenant Shellman, I have one, and it's really tactful, and I apologize. It's just more for my own education. In there, it talks about if the local municipal won't complete a report, we do. And that reports around when someone's reported missing in their municipality. Why would they not complete that report? Why would we be doing what is perceived to be their work?
That's a great question. I know that it has happened before where a municipal police department will just flat out refuse. So the St. Louis County Police Department will always step in and take that report for them. I don't have the answer as to why a certain police department would refuse to take a missing persons report, but I can tell you that that verbiage is written in several of our policies because we've actually seen those things happen. I can't speak for those departments on why they would refuse it. Obviously, we never would, but we will definitely step in for anybody and take that report for them.
I will, but I certainly don't think we should, right? So that's a mixed message. Thank you all for doing that, but it doesn't seem like we should be doing that. It seems like the municipality should be. All right, that's my only question. Thank you.
Anybody else in General Order 42?
No.
We're going to vote on the orders individually. We want to do all 3 together.
I think we do each individually.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the guidance, Michelle. So may we have a motion to approve General Order 22-042, Missing Persons and Runaways.
So moved.
Second. Second.
Thank you, Michelle. All in favor of approving General Order 22-042, please say aye.
Aye.
Richard, we didn't hear your bass voice in there. Is that a yes?
Oh, yes.
All right, thank you. Approved.
We'll move on to General Order 79, which is the investigation of hate crimes. Updates in this policy include a name change from hate crime investigations to investigation of hate crimes, the addition of a definitions section, and added protected rights to be more inclusive. The IACP model policy, as well as CPE, were both referred to for guidance regarding the updates here in this general order. Anybody have any comments regarding General Order 79, investigation of hate crimes?
No, sir. Doesn't look like it. All right. We have a motion to approve General Order 22-079.
I move that we approve General Order 22-079.
Second, please.
Get that motion.
Thank you, Michelle. All in favor of approving 22-079, please say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. So approved.
Sir, finally, we have revised General Order 114, which is annual firearms range qualification dismissal procedures. This new revision removed reserve officers and updated the pass-fail thresholds for the department. Several definitions were added and a new form was created. Step-by-step guidance was added when an armed officer does not achieve the mandatory qualification standard to include the mandatory attendance at skill development training. And the new form will be utilized to document any failures as well as any safety violations that an officer may have at any of the annual qualifications. Does anybody have any questions regarding this general order?
Doesn't appear so. Lieutenant. All right, so maybe we have a motion to approve 22-114.
So moved.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle, Richard, and Michelle, appreciate it. All in favor of approving 22-114, please say aye.
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 Very good. All right. And gentlemen, we now have 3 more approved or reapproved general orders. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Anything from the public forum perspective?
No public comments.
Nothing. All right, anything else before we move into closed session? Very good. We have a motion to move to closed session. We move to closed session because the Board of Police Commissioners may vote to go into closed meeting for the legal advice and review of claims and lawsuits involving the police department, section 610-0211 RSMO and sections 114.0201 SLCRO, discussion of employee and personnel matters, section 610.0213 and 13 RSMO and sections 114.0203 and 13 SLCRO. An update on union negotiations, section 610.021, 9 RSMO and sections 114.0209 SLCRO, and discussions of a request for proposals, section 610.02112 and section 114.020.1.112. May we have a motion, please?
I move that we go into closed session.
I second.
Diana, would you take a roll call, please?
Commissioner Ashworth,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Hassler,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwer.
Yes.
Thank you. We are now in closed session. All right, we are returning from open session and we have a motion, roll call motion to return to open session.
I move we go back to open.
I second.
Yeah.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Hassler,
Yes.
and Commissioner Schwer.
We had one final matter to on the agenda, which is around the appeals process, and we will postpone that until next month. And next month, the meeting will be on February 16th at 9 a.m. Anything else?
Nothing further.
May we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
And can you do another roll call for us?
Commissioner Ashworth,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
and Commissioner Hassler.
Yes.
Have a very good next 30 days or so, and have a wonderful Martin Luther King Day. Thank you.